Hello, everyone. My name is Anna, and this is the story I never thought I'd tell. It's a story about love, family, and betrayal, the kind that breaks not just your heart, but your entire world. I was just 5 years old when my mother died. I don't remember much, just flashes of her smile, the smell of her perfume, the lullaby she sang every night. After she was gone, the house felt empty. My father tried to hide his pain, but I could see it in the way he looked at her photo every morning, in how he kept her favorite cup on the shelf like she'd come back someday. I missed her every single day. A year later, my father remarried. At first, I hated her. I thought she was here to replace my mom, and I made sure she knew that. I wouldn't talk to her. I'd lock myself in my room. I'd cry whenever she tried to brush my hair or make my lunch. But she never gave up. She was patient, the kind of patient that only real love can be. Every morning, she'd leave a little note in my lunchbox. Have a good day, my sunshine. At night, she'd sit outside my door and tell me stories until I fell asleep. Slowly, without even realizing it, I started calling her Mom. She wasn't my biological mother, but in every way that mattered, she was mine. We were just the three of us, Dad, Mom, and me. I never had any siblings, but honestly, I never felt alone. Mom was my best friend. She helped me with homework, cheered for me at every school play, and cried louder than anyone when I graduated high school or got into college. She hugged me and said, "Your mother in heaven would be so proud of you, Anna, and so am I." She worked hard to make sure I never felt the absence of love. So when I met Ethan in college, a quiet, kind boy who treated me with respect, the first person I introduced him to was her, and she loved him instantly. Mom adored Ethan. She'd always say, "He reminds me of your father when he was young, polite, grounded, and calm." And I'd blush and tell her to stop teasing me. She'd laugh, hold my face in her hands, and whisper, "Just promise me one thing. Anna, don't ever let go of someone who truly loves you." When Ethan proposed to me 2 years later, she was the first to know. She hugged us both and said, "Finally, I'll get to see my little girl as a bride." It felt like everything in my life had come full circle. I had love, family, and the mother who gave me both roots and wings. After marriage, Ethan and I moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't big, just a bedroom, a kitchen, and a tiny balcony, but it was ours. Every Sunday, we'd go to my parents' house for lunch. Mom would cook Ethan's favorite dishes, and Dad would joke that she loved him more than me. But slowly, I started noticing the warmth between them. Mom and Ethan began to change. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I was overthinking. But sometimes, I'd find Ethan already at my parents' house before I got there. Or Mom would call him directly about small things, things she could have easily told me. I brushed it off. She loved him like a son, I told myself. And he respected her like a mother, right? One evening I came home from work earlier than usual. Ethan wasn't there. His phone was off. When I asked him later where he'd been, he said he had gone for a walk to clear his head. Something in his voice didn't sound right that night. I couldn't sleep. I picked up his phone when he was in the shower, not because I wanted to snoop, but because something inside me whispered that I needed to. There were deleted messages, only fragments left in the notifications. One of them said, "We shouldn't be doing this. She'll find out." And another, "You know, I can't stop thinking about you." My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. I scrolled through his contacts and saw the name that broke me, Mom. The next morning, I drove straight to my parents' house. Mom was in the kitchen making breakfast like everything was normal. She smiled when she saw me, but that smile didn't reach her eyes. I looked at her and whispered, "How long?" Her hands froze. The spoon clattered into the sink. She didn't ask, "What do you mean?" She didn't even pretend. Tears filled her eyes before I could say another word. "Anna, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't mean to." But I couldn't hear her. My ears were ringing, my heart was breaking, and my body felt like it wasn't mine anymore. I ran out of the house and sat in my car for what felt like hours. The woman who had raised me, loved me, protected me, had betrayed me in the worst way possible. And the man I trusted with my heart had broken it with her. Days passed in silence. I didn't answer Ethan's calls. I didn't go to my parents' house. When I finally faced him, his eyes were red and swollen. He said it was a mistake, that it just happened, that they didn't mean to hurt me. But betrayal isn't an accident. It's a choice, one that both of them made. I packed my bags that night. He tried to stop me, begging for forgiveness. I didn't say a word. I walked out and didn't look back. For months, I couldn't face anyone. I stayed with a friend in another city. Dad called every day, begging me to come home. He didn't know the full truth, only that I had left Ethan. When I finally told him, I heard the silence on the other end of the phone. Then I heard him break. He said, "I can't believe she would do that to you." That was the day my family truly fell apart. Mom tried to reach out, letters, messages, even came to see me once. I couldn't face her. Every time I saw her number flash on my phone, I felt that same burning pain in my chest. 6 months later, she showed up at my doorstep. Her face looked older, tired, almost hollow. She held an envelope in her hand, a letter, I think, but she didn't give it to me. She just said, "Anna, I've made mistakes. I'll live with the guilt forever. But please don't let my sins take away your peace. You deserve happiness." I didn't say anything. I couldn't. The girl who once ran into her arms now stood like a stranger before her. When she turned to leave, I whispered, "You were the only mother I ever had, and you destroyed that too." She nodded, tears falling silently, and she walked away. That was the last time I saw her. A year later, I got a call from my father. Mom had fallen sick. She wanted to see me. I went not because I forgave her, but because part of me still loved her. No matter how much I wished I didn't. She was weak, lying in bed, eyes half open. When she saw me, she smiled faintly. She handed me the same envelope she'd brought before. Inside was a letter. "My Anna, I don't expect forgiveness. I only want you to know that what I felt was confusion, not love. Ethan reminded me of your father when he was young, the same gentleness, the same kindness. And somewhere in my loneliness, I made a terrible mistake. I lost myself, and I lost you, the one person who gave my life meaning. Please don't let my weakness define your story. Love again, trust again, because even though I failed you, you deserve happiness that lasts." Mom, by the time I looked up, she was gone. It took me years to forgive, not for them, but for me. Holding on to the pain was destroying me from the inside. I learned that forgiveness isn't about saying, "It's okay." It's about saying, "I won't let this hurt me anymore." I started over. I moved to a new city, got a new job, met new people, and for the first time in years, I began to breathe again. Sometimes I still think about her, about the woman who loved me like her own, and then broke my heart like no one else could. And I think about Ethan, about how easily love can turn to betrayal. But I've learned something important. People make mistakes, some unforgivable, some that change everything. But no matter how deep the wound, healing is still possible. Last week, I visited her grave. I placed a small white rose and whispered, "I forgive you, Mom. I just wish you had forgiven yourself, too." The wind was gentle that day, and for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Maybe love isn't about perfection. Maybe it's about learning that even broken hearts can still beat. This was my story, a story of love, betrayal, and the strength to rebuild. If you're listening to this and you've been hurt by someone you trusted, please know this. You can survive it. You can rise again. And one day, you'll look back not with anger, but with understanding, because pain passes, but the lessons it leaves behind, they stay forever. Thank you for listening. This was Anna's story on Stories with Alicia.